From Wish TV, All Indiana Politics is your premier source for Indiana politics, focusing on issues that matter to you.
I still want us to be the best in the Midwest.
We can't afford another lockdown.
Give the citizens of this country the relief they need.
Education in the state of Indiana remains priority number one.
In-depth, nonpartisan coverage.
We don't know exactly where the economy will be in January.
People are worried with good reason.
Exclusive interviews with Indiana's political leaders.
We have the resources here in the state of Indiana to care for those who are in need.
Expert analysis on critical legislation.
We need to reform those laws.
This recovery is going to take some time.
We've got to anticipate that there'll be a budget shortfall.
From Wish TV, this is All Indiana Politics Podcast on the All Indiana Podcast Network.
Good Sunday morning. Welcome to another edition of All Indiana Politics. I'm Phil Sanchez. Change is already coming to your primary ballot. It now appears John Rust will not be able to challenge Jim Banks for the Republican Senate race. The Indiana Supreme Court on Thursday blocked a lower court's ruling to let him remain on the ballot. We're still awaiting for a final opinion. Rust says that he already has plans to appeal to the United States Supreme Court if necessary.
I'm keeping my ads up on TV, and we're going to keep running and just, keep bringing my case for someone who is not controlled by the establishment, being Indiana's next United States Senator.
Now, if Rust remains off the ballot, Jim Banks would be unopposed in the Republican Senate primary. Meanwhile, candidates for the other races on the ballot are making their cases to voters. I recently sat down with Sid Mahant. He's running for the 6th Congressional District. That's the seat currently held by retiring Congressman Greg Pence.
So basically, to give it back to our communities, our society. I've been in America almost 20 years. When I came to America, I came broke. I didn't know how to speak English, didn't know nothing about the system and all that. The people here of this great nation, they took me to their arms and they taught me a lot. When I came, I had only $850 in my pocket.
Wow.
And not knowing nothing, no system. And my first job was a janitor. Yes, wow. And then, I worked as a certified assistant nurse in a care center, sold cars. So did a lot of odd jobs, know, and the people here, they helped me to achieve my American dream. And I don't believe any country out there in the world that we can say has, you will never hear listening or somebody saying England dream or Canadian dream. It's only one dream in the world, that's called American dream.
Right.
An early age, and I able to achieve my American dream, and I don't believe in the system, how the things are going on, political system, the government, what's going on the border. So I thought, it's time for me to give it back to the community, to the society, the people of this great nation. I believe the American dream is slipping through the fingers, and it's my duty to give it to the next generation.
Okay, so expand upon what you disagree with what's going on right now, and how do you plan to change it?
So immigration system is one of the biggest problem. I see it. It's been going on from so many years. Even though when I was migrating to America, I have to jump through so many hoops, so many interviews. It was a point where my immigration office, they also lost the track of my interviews. Yes. Wow. So I have gone through a lot, which people can only talk about. People can read the books about immigration system, but having that experience, and even though the families right now still, even though immigration system has gone way better, but it's still not there. And one of the reasons, those people who are making the policies, the laws regarding immigration, they have never gone through the process.
Yeah.
And until you don't go through the process, you don't understand the problems.
Of course. I think that's with everything, right?
Yeah.
So how would you change that then?
So we'll have to work with the trained people, or train them better way. The policies has to be redone again to make it better, the faster the process. So I'll share, let's say, a small example, right? In India, and I'll talk from my experience. So India is basically an IT, hub for the world, right?
Sure.
All the engineers, they go all over the world, and they serve, as well as the doctors. So somebody who wants to come to America from India through IT, it takes probably than 3 months to come down here. And then when they come here, they're on, I believe, H-1B1 visa, right? And they can become the resident, but then the waiting time for that is roughly around right now is 16 years.
Right.
So that guy can live here, but he won't never be a resident until the 16 years, which of course everybody come to this country, they want to live here because of the system, the comfort of the life, the safety of the life, as compared to a lot of countries out there. So, knowing and having that knowledge, sharing that would make a big difference.
Okay, so you want to expedite that a little bit.
That one is one of the biggest one, because as you see what's going on the border, right now, so the borders, people just coming down, that need to be fixed at the point, because like in the past, what was going on, we have in Mexico, we were working with the government there. The people who wanted to come on this side and get the asylum or any other reason they want to cross the border, they will apply the cases on the other side of the border,
right.
And whosoever will qualify will come on this side, and then get the residence here. It's not going on that right now.
What else is important to you?
Transportation infrastructure, and I talk about, Indiana, and I talk about my District 6. The roads are pretty bad right now, and the bridges are going bad too. Indianapolis is very popular about potholes. Mm-hmm. So the part of the Indianapolis, the District 6 is also Indianapolis, mm-hmm. right? And which, if you drive down there, you'll see is pretty bad. And infrastructure leads to the better economy.
Right.
So it's fixing those problems, getting better grants, and making sure the grants are going to the right place, so the things has been taken care of.
You talked about how you came here around 20 years ago, right?
Yes.
What is it about the Republican Party that you align yourself with that made you become a part of the GOP and then also run for Republican office?
So, when I came to America, that was in Washington State. It was all about Democrat and how the Democrats do the things, and they're better for the immigrants. Mm-hmm. And I started watching. I wasn't involved because I didn't have no political circle, no friends in that. And so, either you are in, that's how you learn it in the system, or you stand on the side and really study about it. And when I start seeing from a side of the road, and I start seeing both the parties. That one party only cry about, okay, they put the immigration. That's the most of their vote bank, they gain it. Mm. But then we have another party. They really say, okay, we want to bring the communities together, which I believe Republican Party really does it well. And they have the policies which are proven. They when Trump was in administration as compared to Biden now, we don't even have to ask any question. We already know what situation was back in days to now.
All right, coming up, another candidate explains why he should be the choice for North Central Indiana. Welcome back. Max Engling is one of 10 Republicans who filed to succeed Congresswoman Victoria Spartz before Spartz reversed course and entered the race. He tells me the Republican Party needs someone with fresh ideas who is willing to actually get to work.
I'm a Christian first and foremost. I'm also a husband and a father and a conservative. And so to me, that guides a lot of what I do. But I see so many urgent challenges right now that are facing us that we need somebody who is conservative, but can get to work on that right away. And that's where a lot of the background that I have, both here in Indiana and in Washington, is going to serve me well to do this immediately.
What are some of those issues?
Sure. So when I go around the district, I've talked to a lot of folks. And one of the biggest things I see is the cost of living. So I talked to a young lady actually maybe a month ago, and she said she's in school full time, she's paying for her own tuition at school, and she's working to support her mother who needs help because everything is so much more expensive now. Yeah. And so we really need to, that's one of the biggest things I see that we need to focus on. But also there's immigration, there's the debt, there's all kinds of challenges that are very urgent right now.
How do you attack them? It's a lot. How do you do it? How do you change it?
So one of the biggest things is that you really need to build coalitions. You need to say, how do I work together with other Republicans to actually accomplish the things that a lot of conservative Republicans talk about? And I'm tired of just talking and losing on the issues. I want to get out there and say, how do we win? How do we build the group of people that won't let us down on this and actually accomplish those conservative things?
When you have these conversations, how do those conversations go, especially when you talk to maybe the old guard of within the GOP? I mean, obviously that's kind of a big talking point, right? There's kind of the newer, younger mindset versus the folks who have been there for quite some time?
Yeah, so I've been very encouraged by the folks that I talk to. I think they want someone who is energetic, that fresh voice, but still conservative. We don't see as many young folks that are sticking to the conservative values, that want to be a Republican and say, how do we do the things that can serve? And so there's been an energy around that. I think a lot of it is needing to look at it from a fresh perspective, maybe think innovatively about how do we attack the debt. Maybe we ask CBO to pull out the window. Instead of looking at 10 years, you look at 20 years. Maybe we move to a 2-year budget cycle in Washington. Just new ideas that I think sometimes you need a younger, fresh perspective on.
Okay, so, speaking of national politics, obviously we have a big election coming up, not only, in your district, but also on the national scale as well. Where do you stand when it comes to the presidential election?
So I support President Trump. I believe that, well, one, he's going to be the nominee. 2, I think that he's going to win the White House, and I'm excited to work with him. If I'm given the privilege to serve in this particular way, I'm excited to work with him in Washington to say, let's stop just talking about the issues and let's start accomplishing those issues. And you need a White House that's motivated, and you need a legislature that is willing to get on board and say, let's accomplish these things.
Within District 5, when you have conversations with people, do they agree with you? Do they think it's cost of living? Do they see that things that are important to you are on their kitchen table and their dinner table at the end of the night? Do they talk about these things as well?
Absolutely. So we knocked probably 1,000 doors in the 2023 election, helping out a lot of the candidates at the municipal level. And I brought 2 of my oldest 2 children with me at a lot of those doors. And cost of living was the #1 thing that we encountered. But you also hear a lot when it comes to the border. So I've been down to the border 2 times in the last year and change, and seen it right up close and personal, whether it was in Arizona or whether it was in Texas. And it's a real crisis down there. And people in Indiana feel that. It's not just illegal immigration, but it's also fentanyl. It's not even overdosing anymore. It's fentanyl poisoning at this point, being laced into other drugs that you're not expecting you're going to be taking fentanyl. It's human trafficking. There's a massive crisis of folks that are coming up that are being, then held essentially in bondage by the cartels, saying, you owe me the money that you promised you'd pay, and now you have to work that off to pay it back. And so that really hits even in Indiana. Another crisis that we see is on the debt. So we know that we have a massive debt challenge right now. And that's, we're going to be pretty soon paying $1 trillion every year just to service that debt. And that affects real people, real Americans, real Hoosiers here in Indiana and in the 5th District, when we could be spending that money on other things. So we absolutely see that at the doors as we're talking to folks in the district.
Are you willing to work cross party lines?
Yeah, I think you have to on a lot of these issues. Let me give you one example. So when you look at Social Security, so we have to preserve Social Security. And it's a hard challenge. So there are 2 members of the House right now, Congressman Cole and Congressman LaTurner, that have a piece of legislation that says you put a group of bipartisan members into a room for however long that is. I believe the number is 180 days, but it's something along those lines. And they have to put forward a solution that then gets an up or down vote on the House and Senate floor. And so big issues like that have to be solved with both sides coming to the table. But as you know, and as you've seen in Washington, so many of our problems are just even the Republican Party not being able to figure out where they are.
Right.
So we really have to make sure that we are doing the conservative things we talk about, but using and having the whole party come along with that.
Okay, so obviously you have a big family. How do they feel about you maybe jumping into this?
Yeah,
I know you worked in D.C., and this is not strange to you, but still, I mean, it's a big-time job.
Yeah, we are very blessed. So we have 4 kids, 7, 6, 4, and 10 months. And you're right, it is a big job, but we have built that family inside of the pressure of Washington already. And so we know what that feels like. Now we're just pivoting where we're taking that and how we're staying busy. And we're excited for the opportunity to say, let's make this district, let's make the state of Indiana, let's make the country better for those 4 children, for my 4 children, for the children and the families and the Hoosiers in the 5th District. That's so much of what drives me, that they understand and they're excited for this run.
All right, coming up, Indiana's best political team takes on legal challenges that candidates face here at home and across the country. All right, welcome back to All Indiana Politics as we welcome in 2 members of Indiana's best political team, Democrat Dana Black and Republican Whitley Yates. Good to see you both. Let's begin with the Indiana Supreme Court's order on John Rust. Whitley, if this holds, it hands the Republican nomination to Jim Banks. So how likely is it that the state or the U.S. Supreme Court will end up siding with Rust after all?
I don't think that there's too great of a chance for them to do that. I think that the voluntary association and the fact that each party has decided who can associate with them and what that looks like will be upheld. So I have absolutely no doubt that Jim Banks is going to be our Senate candidate.
Dana, if Rust is kicked off the ballot, does that help or hurt Democrats going into November, either in the terms of voter engagement or maybe something they can point to in ads?
Well, first, I got to tell you, we're going to kick the show off with me agreeing with Whitley. I like the rules the way they are, and I'm comfortable with the idea that if you haven't been voting the right way, then no, you don't get to be on the ballot. So I'm very comfortable with that. Honestly, if anything, it may help us to only have Jim Banks. Listen, we know it's a tough race. It's not like I'm anticipating us being able to blow this thing away, but Jim Banks is not a very likable guy. And so there are a lot of Democrats who may get motivated by some of his, body autonomy statements and things like that. So it may motivate Democrats to get out and vote against him in November.
Okay, well, we'll see what happens there. And I do like the fact that you guys agreed on something. So that was a nice way to kick it off. Hey, speaking of court challenges, former President Donald Trump's hush money trial now set to begin on March 25th. Dana, how does this affect Biden's election strategy, especially if the trial does not go forward as scheduled?
It doesn't. It doesn't. Look, this is a guy who has been found guilty of fraud. He's a fraudulent human being. People still support him. But this doesn't deter anything that the Biden campaign is going to talk about, because they're talking about the things that they've accomplished, like the infrastructure plan. We have enough stuff to talk about without worrying about his hush money and the way his character is flawed.
Okay, so Whitley, the trial will begin after Super Tuesday if it goes ahead as scheduled. Does that potentially give Nikki Haley a window to make up some ground here?
I don't think she has a window, a pot, a home, a wall at this point. I think if she's resting on Trump not being on the ballot, then she probably gets no sleep. I think it is very clear and has been made very clear that Trump will be the Republican nominee. I don't expect any surprises on Super Tuesday. And so her kind of resting on that at this point in time doesn't look very good. We'll see what happens in the Republican primary in South Carolina next week. But I don't believe that it would be a good strategy for her to rest on any of these court cases, because they've been here since he was a threat before to Biden. And so they've continued to push this and Russia hoax and all of these things, and it hasn't stopped his momentum and it hasn't stopped the support.
I agree with her again. Can you believe it? He's going to be the nominee. I've said it earlier in the year. He's going to be the nominee, which is good for Biden.
This is an amazing show so far. All right. Well, I'm going to try to get you guys on this one. OK, so also making news is, Democrats recapturing the congressional seat held by former Republican Congressman George Santos. That was ineffectively a suburban swing district. Whitley, how worried should Republicans be about November based on that result?
I don't think that we should be worried at all, because it was very blue before that. And so it was a surprise when Santos won. I think what we're seeing is it going from very blue to a little bit of purple, meaning that it's a toss up and they want to be represented in a way that has a level of decorum that George didn't bring to the seat. And so them booting him out and getting someone else in, kind of going back to what they know after trying out some Republican leadership, it actually is not very uncommon. I think what we're going to see, though, coming up is that the Democrats are keeping the seat warm and a Republican challenger will rise up to take on that new incumbent.
Dana, I want you to respond to that one as well.
So honestly, the trend continues. Democrats are winning special elections. The red wave didn't happen in 22. People understand that Republicans are offering up really bad policies that are harmful to humans. Again, being anti-reproductive health care is huge. As long as they stand on the side of women can't make health care decisions for their own bodies, they still have an uphill battle. Sure, but people are speaking in droves. Republicans have not won the popular vote in a long time. And the trend continues. They have bad policies. They can't govern. They had a bill to shore up the border. And then they said, oh, no, the orange guy doesn't want us to do it, so we're not going to do it. They can't govern.
Whitley is in disagreement with you. Go ahead. Close us out here, Whitley. Go ahead. Respond.
Let's be honest, right? George Santos was a strong J case. It wasn't about policy that he got booted. it was a little bit more personal than that. And I think we all understand and agree on the decision that was made in his case. But the truth is, America doesn't have what they need from the Biden administration right now. Even Democrats.
Unfortunately, we are out of time.
That's why he got booted, but that's not why the Democrats won.
Yeah, we could keep going here. Enjoy the All-Star game. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you. We'll be right back.
Take care, guys.
All right, thank you for joining us for All Indiana Politics this week. We'll be back here next Sunday morning at 9:30. You can also find our brand new All Indiana Politics podcast. It's part of the All Indiana Podcast Network over at wishtv.com. Enjoy the NBA All-Star game and have a great rest of your weekend.
From Wish TV, this is All Indiana Politics Podcast on the All Indiana Podcast Network. Watch All Indiana Politics live Sunday mornings at 9:30 on Wish TV and at wishtv.com. Subscribe to this podcast and listen weekly here on the All Indiana Podcast Network. And be sure to discover even more great podcasts at allindianapodcastnetwork.com.